goes. So can you all see the screen okay? Yeah. Brilliant. Okie dokie. So, welcome everyone to the session on day one of Mental Health Awareness Week, and the theme this year is on loneliness. My name is Reshna Shah, and I'm a happiness coach, speaker, and trainer. And with Happy Life Habits, we positively impact people's happiness and well-being levels. And this series of events from today through to Thursday has been brought to you by Happy Life Habits, by Minding Enfield and Barnett, Authentic Responses, Oshwal Connect, Donald Dave, On Consultancy, Manish Gohel, as well as the various Facebook groups he looks after, Jains, UK, and it's been sponsored by Balance Consultancy. So we thank you all for supporting and helping to raise this awareness, and we thank our sponsors for helping us share this event.
Sorry, Sherlyn, can you re-share the screen? It's a blank screen.
Okay. 1 moment. Is that any better?
That's it, yeah.
Okay. Apologies on that. And so, there we go. Okay, here we go. All right, so, and as I mentioned, the theme this year is on loneliness, and what I would like to start with is the question I like to ask in Happy Life Habits before the start of every session is this question. And it's just a case for us to take a checkpoint. So using the scale of 0 to 10, but not using the number 0, sorry, not using the number 7, but you're allowed to use fractions and decimals. Just take a checkpoint for yourself at this moment in time to see where you are at this very moment in time on that scale of 0 to 10 of happiness. And the thing here is your scale is unique to you. It's not related to anyone else's scale. Your scale is unique to you, and not to compare your number with anyone else's. And if you are, happy to share that, that would be great. And only share if you, happy to share what your number is. Great. Brilliant. And the reason for asking this question is it's multifold. One is it's to raise our awareness. By asking this question, regularly throughout the day of, how am I feeling? It raises our awareness to let us know how we're feeling. Then it lets us have choice. And if we're happy with what we're feeling, great. And if we want to change how we're feeling, then we can take action. And that's where we can make that decision to do various things which can help us change our happiness levels. So that's the purpose for asking that question. So as I mentioned, we've got a series of events throughout the week, different speakers, and I'll introduce today's speakers as well as what the program is for the week. It will be our core session will run for about an hour, and today it's on community and connection. And then after that hour is finished, those of you who would like to, we can continue, and we'll be using another platform called Wonder, where we can have the coffee chat after an event, chit chat and mingle and discuss. So it's a virtual platform which will allow us to do that. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, they've shared that mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, and can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So there's a few key things here. It's a state of well-being. It's the individual realizing their own abilities and can cope with the normal stress of life, work productively and fruitfully, and also making a contribution to their community. So that's what mental health is about, making these contributions and being able to cope with the day-to-day of life. Another definition, which I think is from Mind, the charity which also works on mental health, is it's the ability to think, feel, and react in a way that you need and you want. So conditions that affect our mood, thinking, and behavior could be any condition that disrupts an individual's everyday life. So it's us being able to, think and for us to be able to think, feel, and react in a way that we want and be able to cope with things in that way. So we've got a series of 4 sessions for you. Today's session is day 1, and it's on community and connection. And as mentioned, the theme of mental health awareness this year by the Mental Health Foundation is on loneliness. So we will be discussing about community and connection, and we have different people from various organizations and groups, online and face-to-face groups, joining us to share their experiences. And so and I'll introduce them properly in a moment. Tomorrow, we have Martin from Mind in Enfield and Barnet, and she'll be talking about mental health and loneliness and sharing some of the resources that Mind have. And we also have Hansa from the OM consultancy. She's a stress management expert, and she's going to be sharing on how to overcome loneliness. Then on Wednesday, we have Sonal, who's with us today. She's a speaker and a celebrant and helps people build their confidence in speaking. She's a magistrate and a variety of other roles she plays. And she's going to be sharing about stress and anxiety in the workplace and how we can help to offer support. And she'll be sharing some of her own experiences in having experienced stress and anxiety in the workplace. And then on Thursday, we have Priya joining us to share about suicide prevention. Priya works with training helpline staff, those who are at the end of a crisis call, whether it's for the Samaritans or other helplines, helping those staff to be trained in various skills, soft skills, as well as other skills. And so suicide prevention is one of the things that she will be sharing on that. So the Mental Health Foundation explains that the theme of loneliness, it's been chosen for this year, and it shares 3 key things. One of them is loneliness is the feeling we experience when there is a mismatch between our social connections that we have and those that we need or want. So there's a mismatch between those social connections of the ones we have and the ones that we need and want. It also says that the warmth of our relationships throughout life has the greatest impact on our life satisfaction and health. And I'll share more about this either later today or during the week of some of the science behind and studies behind this aspect as well. And all of us experienced lockdowns, and we found that what the Mental Health Foundation has found is that during that time, it's amplified the feeling of loneliness to being 3 times more than the pre-pandemic levels. So that's a huge, increase in loneliness. At the beginning of the pandemic, there was an article that I put together called Together in Isolation. And in this one, I shared, the communities that I'm a part of were being for me a source of faith, learning, growth, health, service, and social activity. They were all stopping events and activity, whether it be, sports clubs like badminton clubs, youth clubs, faith schools, faith-based events, meditation circles, or learning circles. All of these where I had a sense of connection and community, and which gave me clarity and meaning, they were all stopping. So, one by one, all of these were stopping. And I think many of us may have experienced this during the pandemic and the lockdown. And what happiness and health and the human dimension for me is made up of these 4 dimensions. It's the physical, the body, the mental, the mind, the emotional, social, feelings, and relationships and love, and the spiritual. And if we look back at what I shared here, all of these were touching one or more of those 4 dimensions, whether it's the social, the emotional, the badminton clubs, the youth clubs where, you're learning to play, the social gathering, you're doing physical exercise, that helping, the faith-based stuff where you're learning and sharing, and there's, aspects of spirituality. So all of these elements during the pandemic and the lockdown were disappearing. And that's why I know I felt, a sense of misconnection and loss and so forth. So today, we have got 3 speakers who will be sharing with us. And all of these speakers are working, their parents, and they all have, their own specialities. So we have, Reshna. She's a good friend of mine. She's come over from Kenya a few years ago, left that community there, left the social connections there, and rebuilt a life here. And she's got involved into various community groups. All of the ones represented today, she's part of, Oshwal Connect, the Asian Parents Group. She's part of those. She's part of Happy Life Habits, as well as other ones. And she'll share her experience of shifting from one country to another, loneliness in the pandemic, and how communities have helped her with a sense of connection. We have Manish, who is, and he's got a multitude of skills. NLP is one, coaching is another, executive leadership coaching, Reiki, yoga master. So there's a variety of skills that Manish has developed and built. But one of the things that Manish has done, and I met him back 2 years ago during the lockdown, so I've only met him virtually, is he's built and is continuing to build virtual groups. So on Facebook, he's created 3 groups with specialities. So there's Asian Parent Club, there's a business club, and there's a dating club. And so he's nurturing all of these, and he's got his own, consultancy practice of coaching as well. And he'll be sharing his experience of mental health and loneliness, through divorce as well as through the pandemic. And then we have Aarti, who's joining us from Texas in the USA. She's part of Oshwal Connect. That group's been up and running for just over a year now. And it's a global group. It represents from all over the place. And that's how Aarti got connected with that group, and that's how we got connected. And she'll share her experience of being brought up in the UK and then going over to the US and some of the experiences she's had there. So those are our 3 speakers today. And the questions that we'll be asking the 3 speakers are: when have you experienced mental health challenges yourself or loneliness? How did you feel and what did you do? And then after each of them has shared that, we'll ask them about how community groups, whether they're online virtual groups or active community groups, have helped them, or volunteering has helped them, and they'll share that. And then we'll open up to all of our audience here to also share and answer those questions, or ask any questions to our panel on that. So that is our structure and plan for today. So what I will request is, if for the next segment, apart from the speakers, if everyone else could switch their videos off, that would be great. And on your Zoom session, if you choose view and you do speaker view, so on the right hand side it's got a view button, and if you do speaker view, that will make the speakers nice and big and for you to be able to see them clearly. So that is so I am going to actually start with Manish. He loves going first, and ask you to add a bit more to the introduction, but also just share, please, when you've experienced mental health or loneliness, how did you feel and what did you do?
So I guess this all started during my divorce, which was about 12 years ago now. So I moved out of my hometown to Milton Keynes, where I was married. And the biggest thing I had was getting divorced, not having family next to me. And that was nothing but a nightmare in a sense. My parents were abroad as well, retired. So it's over a phone call, pretending to them that I'm all okay and all smiley. And that was one of the hardest things, putting the phone down to my own parents and pretending that I'm okay, even though I'm burning up inside, don't know which way to turn. And as a guy, it was so hard to reach out to get any sort of support. So when I hear comments about people going for divorces, whether it's male or female, and the struggles they go through, it's you don't know who to reach out to. I used to pick up the phone to try and ring people to see if they're available to speak to. And trying to get sympathy from people didn't help. It was needed. What I needed was a kick up the bum, basically, to get out of that rigmarole. Because the more sympathy I got, the worse I got. I started drinking too much. I was suicidal. And these are things I've never really spoken about. It's only over the past couple of years I spoke about this stuff. And I was literally sitting there every night with a knife by my side for about 6 months, not knowing which way to turn. But it was only a photo of my son that kind of got me through all of this, because if I wasn't around, what could he do? And I couldn't let him down. But even at that time, I was still helping other mums and dads who were going through divorces to see their children as well, because I actually felt the pain and I was being pushed to the curb, unworthy and literally alone, and trying to reach out. I'd even joined a single parent travel group as well. And it took me 9 months to actually go to an event. Literally 9 months, because it's so like, what do you do on your own as a father? And to me, it was like everyone's staring at you thinking you're unworthy. But as soon as I made that step and I did that, it was just out of this world. The connections I made and the empowerment and the support I was getting from all these people. And I didn't really ask for it. It was just that I was part of this team of people who were single parents who went through their own pains, and their pains were even worse than mine. And that's when realization kicked in. And that's when I started helping people out. And that's when the bond started. And I was focused of, I want to create a future for myself and my son. But when people are going through divorces, and I know at the moment there's the no fault going forward, or it's gone forward now. And if people are thinking divorce, it's not as easy as it sounds. Because as soon as you start signing on a dotted line, that's when things start triggering emotionally. That you really need to have a support network around you. And if I never had that, and I wouldn't be around. It was tough.
Yeah, thank you for your honest and frank and very personal sharing on this. Just for everyone's benefit, Manish and I have spoken about this previously, and we've talked about mental health on Asian Parents Group, as well as a couple of the other groups that Manish looks after. So I was, been aware of some of what he's shared today, and hence, invited him to share today. And I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability in that. Thank you for that. What we'll do is I'll ask Reshna if you're happy to go next and share. When have you experienced mental health challenges yourself, or loneliness?
Yeah, I come from Kenya, and in Kenya, I was married, and I had my daughter. I never had the support of my husband, and it was always like I was always going to all social functions without him, because he had an alcoholic problem. Be there like for school events, cheering my daughter, trying to run the business as well. And I was working as a freelance, as an accountant. I was trying to juggle up all this by myself, and my parents and my siblings are in UK at that time. I felt really lonely going to places on my own. And there were times when I just felt, why me? Why is it always happening to me when I see other people, other friends, having good relationship with their hobbies? But I was very fortunate that my childhood friend was with me throughout this downhill journey, and she would really lift me up and make sure that I'm not alone, talk to me. And I think the connection is very important when you are in this state. We lost our business in Kenya, and that made me move to UK since we were all British nationals. Migrating at a very late age is very difficult because you're leaving your roots behind, your friend circle of so many odd years, and coming here, starting again. I think that was more of a challenge for me. I was trying to build up that connection as well. And it was very tough because you're doing everything on your own again. I had to leave my daughter behind for a couple of months just to settle here. And I think that was the hardest part I did. It really took me courage just to let her be in Kenya while I was here trying to settle and then call her. But she was very understanding, and I think she's my best friend right now. And at least she was there to hold my hand when I was very much down. When I came here, I used to teach in I used to teach Jainism in Kenya, and I wanted to go back to doing that again because I think I thrive on being with people, and it actually was a very good move for me to connect to SCVP Jain school and started teaching there, and that's where I met Shailin actually. Realized that we do have so many things in common as a teacher, as the principles behind how to lead a normal, happy life. So that, I think, was a starting point for me to get over my loneliness and try building up a circle of friends. Thanks again, I come here with my husband, but again, it did not work out for us. It was becoming a financial burden for me as well, because it was again, I was a single parent trying to make ends meet while he was not helpful at all. My daughter actually made me realize that, Mom, I think it's time. You have to drift apart from him. And that was, I think, one of the worst time. It was so bad, I felt so much down and thinking, am I doing the right thing or not? I was fortunate to have my father with me over here, who supported me. But there were times when you can't tell everything to your father. There are some things you don't want to make him realize that what am I really going through, because I couldn't see the pain in his eyes. But I was again, I had some very close friends to fall back on. They gave me a lot of support. And again, Shailin knows my whole history, what I had been going through. I felt that I needed to connect to people who are going through the same thing as well, to understand that what I'm feeling, is it the right way as well. And but one thing was that my smile never left my face, whatever I was going through. I have, lucky enough, I had my religious background, my spiritual background that uplifted me as well. I did not go down into dumps, and I just try to build up my life. It was very hard looking for a job when you come from Kenya after such, later in the stage, and you're competing with young blood as well. I drifted in and out of jobs as well, trying to get to the right one. And it still said, I felt I did not still belong in UK at that time. It was so hard just to, connect to your work colleagues as well. They all come from different backgrounds, and it was really, really tough for, trying to force myself to go to work and thinking that, yeah, I am happy, but I dreaded getting up in the morning just to leave for work. But I was very fortunate. About 3 years ago, I landed on a very nice job as a finance manager, and the culture over there is really nice. They are very friendly, and now I can say that yes, I do belong here. And I had all the support, and when I was going through the separation and the difficulties, the challenges I faced during this period, that was in 2020 when over lockdown, we were not allowed to meet anybody during that time. I was just on my own, but I still held my head high up and just kept on praying to the higher self that please show me a way how to get out of this. And luckily we had all these online events going on, like and young Jains had enriching conversations, and it actually was really helpful for me to listen, to take part in it and realize that other people are going through other stuff and how they are trying to cope. And I was very fortunate to also take part in this, in the gratitude journal that Shailene had organized. And I think that was a plus point in my life, that it actually made me get up in the morning and always think of what I am grateful for. And that really stopped me from going way downhill. So right now, all I can say is that I'm very happy. The loneliness that I had, I feel now that yes, you do get lonely, but there are so many ways to get out of it. And yeah, I think that's what it is all about.
Thank you. So, yeah, thank you for that. Again, very personal and frank sharing, Reshna. And just with what both Manish and yourself have shared, I think a couple of the takeaways were where either family wasn't close by to be able to, lean upon and support, or family was close by, but it was or became difficult to sometimes get the support from family and friends, and had to build some of those trust and connections to support on that. And as you shared, your work environment is one which has given you that sense of family and connection there. One thing that Reshna mentioned, which is, I think, an important takeaway, is both gratitude and journaling is one which I talk about a lot. Both of those help with mental well-being as well as emotional well-being. When we get the stuff out of our head and we're able to put it down on paper, whether it's a structured journal or an unstructured journal, it makes a big difference to us, instead of just carrying and ruminating on some of these thoughts throughout the day in our heads. So those practices can be very powerful to help with our well-being. Thank you. And Aarti, if you'd like to share, and yours is a slightly different scenario with this one, so it would be interesting to hear that perspective.
Yep, sure. Thank you for having me here today, Sharon. So my experience is a little different. I moved to the United States after growing up in London all my life. I moved in 2013 and we moved to New Jersey, which is where my husband was. He'd grown up there, so he was pretty familiar with the place. I've traveled a lot in my life. I've spent long stints in India and Australia and other places. But the thing that kind of hit me most when we moved to New Jersey was suddenly I didn't have that same family support. I come from a huge extended family, big social circles. I had so many different organizations that I was connected with when I lived in London, and all of that was gone. And work was a big part of my life. I've worked in the city in central London most of my life. I used to be able to socialize after work. Now we were living somewhere in New Jersey, in suburban New Jersey, which, was like a 4-hour commute on a daily basis. Every time I wanted to go to New York City, socializing after work kind of went away. The life was very different with our friends because of geography. In London, everyone sort of works in the city and goes home to the suburbs so you can hang out together in either location. Here, everyone was very dispersed. And I found outside of my husband's childhood friends group, it was really hard to meet new people and find organizations that I could connect with. And this was back when Facebook was around, but it wasn't quite cultivating the same sort of groups and connections that it did, which really took off during COVID. I think that was one major time when, being away from everything that I'd ever known, the structures, the forum, it was really hard. The second part was when I had my older daughter. I had her in the US rather than coming back to the UK, which is what I always thought I would do. And we had family support, but it looked very different to anything I'd seen any of my cousins ever experience. When any of my older cousins had children, or even, when all of us cousins were born, everyone would be with each other all the time. So it was a very different experience. And I found it hard. I tried going to, some mommy and me events and things like that, but dealing with sleepless nights and a young baby and a state where there was snow from pretty much November through till March made, it was a hard situation. It's not something that I felt completely comfortable in. And just not having the same safety net as we would have if we were in London. Like if I wasn't well, or if she wasn't well, or if my husband wasn't well, it wasn't like we could pick up a phone call and someone would just turn up to help, or with food or something. And with that, I did go through postpartum anxiety, which was a challenge for sure. It wasn't as intense. Like, it was probably a little more intense by the time I had my second daughter. But the flip side is we decided that we weren't going to stay in New Jersey. Partly the weather was just getting to us a lot. But also when we moved, we had said we were going to look for somewhere a little more family friendly. So within 3 years, we did another move. So going from an international move to an interstate move. And this time around, I took into account a lot of the things that were making me feel isolated from community and connection. And we took that on board. And when we moved to Austin back in 2017, I specifically tried to do a lot of things differently to make a home. I think since we've moved to Austin, I've had the good fortune of being able to connect with groups that I've made friends through, both virtually, in person, and especially through my, through being a parent. And that's changed the dynamic quite significantly. And it's helped me reconnect with the things that mean a lot to me. In London, I was an active member of a Chamaya mission. And in New Jersey, it was a very, very small chapter, which was geographically, it was not close. So I wasn't able to participate in the same way. So getting those things back has definitely been vital, like to supporting my happiness. I think, learned a lot in the last 5 years of being here, and it's all been good things. I don't feel like I felt lonely the way that I did when I was, in New Jersey in those first few months of postpartum. I don't think that loneliness have ever really come back, just because of the support networks that I've been so lucky to have found.
Yeah, no, thank you, Aarti, for that sharing. I related to some of that with when I've, whether it's the pandemic, as I shared earlier, or stress-related work, where the things you were part of and the things that you gave you joy of being part of the communities or sports or learning environments and all of that, disappearing, and especially in the work one where if you're working long hours, you're not able to do the stuff that you regularly enjoy doing and which is important to do. You felt a whack, and with the shift that's come about, those things are now more structured and put into place into the lifestyle now, and I think that's really important. That we've got to recognize the things which nourish us and make sure we're doing those on a regular basis. So thank you. So yeah, no, thank you all for your sharing on the aspects of where you felt mental strain and loneliness and the scenarios which led to those. And you touched upon a little bit, I think all of you, on the aspect of community and that, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to share also. So, the question is, how have community groups, or both virtual or Facebook groups, or volunteering helped and benefited you? What's the difference it's made, and what kind of things have you been involved with? And Manish, again, if I ask you first, in the sense of with the groups that you've created, the Asian Parent Group, the Business Club, the Date Club, what's some of the thinking behind that and the reason behind that, and how that's helped you as well as people who are part of it?
There was something that I wanted to create many years ago, but I didn't get around to. I don't know why. I just got preoccupied with life and just enjoying life, I guess. But the whole idea about the Parents Club wasn't a matter of just saying, here's parents, because predominantly you'll see when you talk about parents, we kind of focus on mums, which we generally do. And I wanted to make sure people are aware that, dads are there as well as mums equally. And the whole idea about a group is to teach the audience or the members that the children they've got around them, they should be freely available to go and speak to either mum or dad equally about any situation at all. And what I found on there is some of the questions I've put up there and some of the little prompts, I guess, has brought about some really healthy debates on there. And it's given people an opportunity just to speak their minds. And just to say that, everyone's got a different opinion, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong. There's no book to say this is exactly what a parent should do, because we've all got our flaws. Even our kids have. We haven't got perfect kids. They are a pain at times, and other times they're ideal, just like us. We're a pain at times as well to our own parents. But I just found that having that community, some people are quiet and they just want to read what's happening, they just want to follow and take information on board. And if it kind of helps that one parent or family, then I've done something okay in my life. And that's all it's about for me. And I do various lives on there as well, and just to talk about what other people do in different scenarios. And I learn a lot from other people and what they're talking about. So, we did a live, I think it was about a month ago or 2 months ago, I can't remember when it was. And I learned so much more from speaking to other people by asking them questions and trying to understand things from their point of view. And that was the whole idea about that community group. So people get to connect, share ideas, share things they're doing. People, yes, they've got help and support on there. So help and support for tutoring and children, but it is just literally having that connection with other people. I've got people on there from overseas, and I'm probably never going to meet them face to face, but it's just really nice to have that connection as well. It's a nice thing where, especially when you're on Zoom, I guess you can talk to somebody, and I think it's a kind of very safe environment in the sense of they can't throw nothing at you. It's safe nothing wrong, so you can get away with saying certain things, which I think is pretty nice. So it's taken it lightheartedly as well, and it has benefited me because I've learned loads, as you know. So it keeps me really busy.
Yeah, that, but also, I mean, the community's benefited off, the people who are part of it, where, you've helped connections happen. Some of the people I've met have been through those groups and meeting them and inviting them onto, sharing stuff that I'm working with. So it's, that ability where there's a common ground and you've encouraged people to take part with it, both as either sharing or as a member, is very positive. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and it's really scary how small the world really is, because I've got people I'm connected to who are friends of friends. That's literally 2 connections away. I'm like, how do I know you? How are we connected? And we are connected somehow. And that's from people in for example, Canada. I was over in the States the other week, a few months ago, and I connected to somebody there. I'm thinking, but you're connected to somebody I know here. How's that happened? The world is a small place, scarily how small it is.
Well, it's the Kevin Bacon story, isn't it? 6 degrees of connection between us and everyone. The 6 degrees of connection. It's just finding those degrees of connection. But there's more to connection, and we'll explore that in a moment. Aarti, I think it'll be useful to share about Oshwal Connect, what and if Manti or Chetan are online, we can invite them on to share about why it was started, but your perspective on why it was started and how it's helped you.
Yep, absolutely. So I know, I think I saw Bunty and Chetan online, so there may be one of them to come on about the whole vision for Oshwal Connect. I joined very early, in the very early days when Oshwal Connect was created, and I knew Bunty from other Oshwal groups and things that we'd been a part of. And as the group was growing very quickly, they were looking for people to come and help from a moderating perspective and an admin perspective. Sorry,
just to give context to people, Oshwal is a community from India, East Africa, and in the UK, so it's a global community. So there's a cultural and a faith-based connection to that community, just to give some context.
Sure. I see Chetan has actually come on. Maybe if he wants to give a little blurb on what Oshwal Connect is and why it came about, and then I can share a little bit more about my kind of role and how it's helped me.
Yeah.
Hi guys, I'll be very brief actually. Oshwal Connect is just about bringing people together, connecting everyone, and worldwide. So with the pandemic, everyone felt kind of lonely and all this sort of stuff, but we're not. We're all connected somehow. Wherever you are around the world, we have one sort of thread, if you want, of having some similar background or something similar about us, where there's already that understanding that kind of is already there. This disconnects us, brings us together. It's good to know we've got friends wherever you kind of are. And when we're doing this sort of stuff virtually, it's brilliant. It's always a nice time when we can meet at some point. But when we're doing this sort of stuff, it's great to know that there's a community beyond our kind of our little area, be it our house, our like London area, wherever we are in the world, we can connect. And it helps on many kind of things. Emotionally, kind of relating to people, business-wise, you're kind of dealing with someone that you may now know, someone new, so that opens up different doors. And really, it's about kind of just relationships and how you just have relationships with people that you may have some history as well. I mean, so many people that we've connected with that. One of the guys, for example, we find that our grandfathers had shops next door to each other in Kenya. I wouldn't have met this guy throughout, without Oshwal Connect, for example. So it's things like that. But I mean, there's millions of sort of stories like this now, which is so good.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I know, the community is global. We've got Biddy, who's in Australia, but she's in the UK at the moment, and part of this. Aarti and Bindi and that have reached out on Oshwal Connect and met with people local to them who they didn't know otherwise without this platform. So that's been very powerful.
Yeah, I think that's been the most powerful thing is before the pandemic, social media was more about an online connection. But for now, it's facilitating real life interactions, which is what is pretty amazing about it. I started to get more involved with online parenting groups, and through that, I found a really good sort of tribe for myself that helped me, that aligned with the values that I had, and it went from there, and that's turned into real life friendship with people in different locations. So when I've been back in London, there are new friends that I'm meeting, but it's like meeting old friends because we've been so connected. And with Oshwal Connect, I think I've had the chance to meet a couple of different people here, and I already know that next time I go traveling in different parts of the US, it's almost like back in the days when we used to travel and you'd look up a directory to see who's a Shah in a location that you've just gone to, just to make that connection. But between Oshwal and for me, the Chinmaya mission, I remember when my husband and I went traveling across the world for about 15 months, we knew someone in most cities through one of these two networks, which was really nice, just getting that local perspective and getting to see what life was like in different places. Another thing that's made a really big difference for us, we live in a neighborhood in Austin where the kids still go out in the yard, they still play in the street, they go to the playground, with friends. The neighbors hang out together, we do barbecues, we do swimming pool parties, we do a whole host of things. And that physical connection, I think it's changed. It probably a lot like what London may have been when the initial folks were coming over from East Africa to London, but a lot of that's gone away. And it is through some of the virtual Facebook groups that I found in the local area that have really actually connected me with a lot of people. And it's just the feeling of belonging here has been pretty powerful. I've often been asked, would you come back to London, from where you are? And I think I'd really struggle to leave behind the friends and the life that we've created here, just because of the relative, I feel like we have a different kind of freedom out here. And even during the pandemic, we were never as restricted as some other parts of the world. And I think that was absolutely vital for mental health and well-being.
I think one of the key words you used, which is important to community and to connection and to loneliness, is belonging, that sense of being a part of something and belonging to a group or a community. So that's, I think was very powerful. Reshna, would you like to add any more to, because you're part of Oshwal Connect, you're part of the Asian Parents Group, you're part of Happy Life Habits and a few other communities, both online and offline, that you've shared. Is there anything more you would like to share about how these groups have helped benefit you on top of what you shared before?
Yeah, so apart from the groups that you mentioned, there was even a book club organized by Happy Life Habits. And I think that was one of the most important groups as well, because it brought like-minded people together. And I'm a book person. I love reading. And I was always in search of people who like that, especially here in the UK. So it was really good to connect to such people who would read philosophy and be able to discuss. I think that's the most important thing, that we can discuss these things. And the other group that I had recently joined was, I love being outdoors. When I say outdoors, I mean nature. And I joined this group which would maintain the garden in Harrow Recreation Ground. we have actually adopted a tiny piece of that area and call it Ahimsa Gardens. I now go there to volunteer once a month, just to do the weeding or watering the plants. And again, I met so many new friends. I connected with so many friends, which I had not known before. And I think it's just the part of like trying to meet people and connecting. I think that's the main thing. That I felt was like we have to have this kind of social connection. Otherwise, I think we would be going down into depression, I think. Especially when we're alone and not having a partner with us. There is another, there are quite a few other organizations that I have been part of as well. Like, obviously, I mentioned about teaching Jainism. So again, it's I've been with other kind of, people who are actually in that spiritual sense as well. And I think it's just bringing what I have as my values out there, and the universe is even guiding me to those kind of people. So I think that's the best of like trying to get into such groups.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think, like with the gardening one you mentioned, and I think similar to the other ones, there's a sense of meaning and purpose there on when you're taking part. There's some regularity there. Being in nature is fantastic for our mental health and just replenishing and nourishing ourselves. Nature is just amazing, and that social aspect connection. So the banter you can have when you're weeding away with someone else in the conversations, and then over the coffee and the chit chat and having a shared experience are all aspects to it. So thank you for that. So in a moment I am going to open up to the audience if you want to ask the panel any questions, or if you would like to share your own experience of mental health or loneliness, or how communities and connection have helped. We will open up to have a conversation on that. I take the opportunity to thank Manish, Reshna, and Aarti for, again, your personal, wholehearted, honest, sharing on this. It's not easy to share this with anyone at all, and especially with people you don't know on a virtual platform. So thank you for your courage on that and your trust on that. I'm just going to share the screen again. Are you all okay to see the screen? Yeah. So the picture that I've used for the last few years when I've been talking about mental health awareness is a picture of me sitting on a chair, looking out across, on a cliff top, looking out to sea. And sometimes I, ask the question, what do you see? And some people say, they see someone who's relaxed, tranquil, peaceful, serene. So that's one perspective. Absolutely true, correct. But another perspective here is someone who's taking one last look out. They're in turmoil in their heads. They're taking one last look out, then they're going to take a few steps and possibly go over that edge. We can't tell what's going on in people's heads. So that is one of the key things with mental health, that we can't often easily see or know what's going on. So they tell us, ask people how they are, ask them how they are really, and if you notice changes in behavior or in language and all of, be aware of those. That's what part of this whole mental health awareness is, to pick up and be aware of those things so that we can check in and ask and help. And that I think Manish has shared before, and Reshna, you can have a smile on your face, but you could be in complete turmoil inside with things. So not to take things at face value, and to check in and ask and lend a hand and support. And also, if you are yourself going through any of these feelings or challenges, seek out support, reach out, call a family member, call a friend, call one of the support services, whether it's the Samaritans, look at the information from Mind, but don't let it fester and deal with it yourself. Reach out. There's much support and help out there for this. On this picture, and there's one I'll show a bit later, Brené Brown, she's fantastic, written some books and done some fantastic TikToks. One of the key things she shared, which I love and make it all part of the stuff I do, is connection is why we're here. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. So without connection, there is nothing. We are wired as social beings to connect and to be with others and to connect. So we can have some quiet time, we can have some alone time, and that's different from being lonely. We can choose to have some quiet time and be in that, but we do need that sense of connection with others, with nature, with the higher self, and really important there. It's right there. The Robin Williams one I'll skip at the moment, but that last one, was shared during the pandemic. We're socially distant at the moment. We're all socially distant, even on this call. But we're physically apart, but emotionally we can be together. And it's that whole connection is about not mind to mind, but heart to heart or soul to soul connection. That's what it's about, and that is about bringing forth and expressing more deeper our kindness, our empathy, our compassion, our friendliness with the others. And that's the key thing that one of the key things I'd like you to take away from here. There's almost 8 billion people on this world. There is no reason that loneliness should exist. We're 8 billion people on this world. And that's the problem, but we are the solution to this. All we have to do is do our bit by being a little bit more friendlier, a little bit more kinder, a little bit more aware, and a little bit more connected. And all it takes is a genuine smile, a hello, or a how are you. It's just taking that little further action from ourselves and help people feel connected. And it could be the homeless person on the street, instead of just avoiding eye contact, make eye contact and just say hello, how are you? You don't have to give them food, you don't have to give them money if you're not able to, but you can acknowledge them, and that's important. And that's what I think a lot of us do require, that sense of existence or acknowledgement. And it's when people don't feel that and they feel alone, that sometimes the mind can take over and different decisions can be taken on that. So the key message for today and for all of this week is just do a little bit more of what you already do, of being purposefully friendlier, kinder, aware, and connected. So, the homework, as it were, reach out today or tomorrow and just connect with either a family member or a friend and just check in on them, or a work colleague, and just do that extra step, today and this week, and just see the difference that can make. I'm going to share a little bit of science today, not too much, but a little bit. Many of you would have heard of the happy chemicals, and in Happy Life Habits, we often share about dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, and it spells out those. Each of these has a particular function in the body, but when these are low, we can feel these things. And the ones in orange are, a lack of enthusiasm, it's depression, it's low trust, low social interactions, weak relationships, loneliness, depression, seasonal affective disorder, again, depression. So these different happy chemicals are which boost us up and help us feel connected, help us feel happier. The stress chemicals of cortisol and adrenaline are the ones which can lower these and make us feel these things. So what we've got to do is actively do things which help us boost these happier chemicals, both within ourselves and within others. And that's goals, meditation, practice of gratitude, kindness, compassion, hugs and touch. These were things we weren't able to do during lockdown and during the pandemic. So we all felt disconnected, and we all felt alone, and our social interactions were less. The virtual world helped to a degree, but it's not the same as the human touch, which can help further release the oxytocin. Sunlight and dark chocolate, exercise and massage, all of these things can help. And if we're able to do some of these things with other people, so for example, go for a walk in nature, go with the group, go for a walk in walking group, and maybe a few moments of meditation. During that time, you're able to release a couple of these different ones throughout the day and do different activities in that manner. So that's one of the things there, that we're in a position where we can do things which can help release these happier chemicals and help us feel less of those things that we do feel when our happier chemicals are low. So yeah, the Brené Brown one, connection is why we're here. It's what gives us purpose and meaning to our lives. And we'll explore more of that over the next few days. I'm going to share a story with you before we move on. So if I could ask you to just actually, no, you don't need to close your eyes. This one you can just listen. I was going to say close your eyes, but no, it's fine. You can listen. So this is a story about contact and connection. Some of the other stories on Amazing Corn and the Mecca I'll share during the week. But there was a monk from the Ramakrishna mission, and he was being interviewed by a journalist from New York. And the journalist started interviewing the monk as planned earlier. And the journalist said, "Sir, in your last lecture, you told us about contact and connection. It's really confusing. Can you explain?" And the monk smiled and, apparently deviating from the question, asked the journalist, "Are you from New York?" And the journalist said, "Yeah." The monk asked, "So who are there? Who's there at home?" And the journalist felt that the monk was trying to avoid answering his question, since this was a very personal and unwarranted question. Yet the journalist said, "Mother has expired, father is there, 3 brothers and 1 sister, all married." The monk, with a smile on his face, asked again, "Do you talk to your father?" The journalist looked visibly annoyed. The monk, continued, "When did you last talk to him?" And the journalist, suppressing his annoyance, said, "Maybe a month ago." And the monk said, "Do your brothers and sisters meet often? When did you meet last as a family gathering?" At this point, sweat appeared on his forehead of the journalist. Now, who is conducting the interview, the monk or the journalist? It seemed the monk was interviewing the journalist. With a sigh, the journalist said, "We met last at Christmas 2 years ago." Many of us can relate to that. And the monk said, "How many days did you all stay together?" The journalist, wiping the sweat on his brow, said, 3 days. The monk said, "How much time did you spend with your father, sitting right beside him?" The journalist looked perplexed and embarrassed and started scribbling something on paper. And the monk goes, "Did you have breakfast, lunch, or dinner together? Did you ask how he was? Did you ask how his days are passing after your mother's death?" Drops of tears coming out started to flow from the eyes of the journalist. The monk held the hand of the journalist and said, "Don't be embarrassed, upset, or sad. I'm sorry if I've hurt you unknowingly, but this is basically the answer to your question about contact and connection. You have contact with your father, but you don't have connection with him. You are not connected to him. Connection is between heart and heart, sitting together, sharing meals, and caring for each other, touching, shaking hands, having eye contact, spending time together. You brothers and sisters have contact, but you have no connection with each other." The journalist wiped the tears, wiped his eyes and said, "Thanks for teaching me a fine and unforgettable lesson." And that's something just for us to think about. We can have lots of Facebook friends, we can have lots of connections, or contacts, but connection is at a different level. And it's the quality of our connections which is important as well. So that was the story there. So it is now an opportunity for you to ask any questions you would like to ask Manish, Aarti, Reshna, or myself, or if you would like to share anything based on what's been shared of your experience with mental health or loneliness, or how community groups have helped. So it's opening up to that. And if you'd like to share, please either switch your video on and raise your hand if you have any thoughts or questions. Okay, we have Manish. Anyone else? Okay, Manish, you go ahead while others are thinking if they would like to share.
So I just wanted to add about the journaling. I know Reshna mentioned it earlier, and you mentioned it as well with the journaling you do. That is just so important. No matter what you do, even getting the name journaling away from it, having a notepad, and these are my notepads, and I've got a few more in here, which I used to write stuff on. And whether it's the good stuff, whether it's the bad stuff, just writing a single line and putting a date and a time to it, just letting go of it and pen to paper. Putting it down, pen to paper is so powerful, so important. And it's no point putting it on your phone. It makes no difference, in my mind anyway. But yeah, if people are going through any sort of challenges, start writing those things down. It doesn't have to be a massive list. No one's going to check it. It's just down to you. It's your personal thoughts you're writing down.
Terrific, thank you for that. I guess that is a great example. Maybe the question to ask is, what are things that you do to help support your mental health or to combat loneliness? And so an open question to all, what are some of the things that people do?
I'm going to say it's looking at your successes and what you've done, what you've achieved, and we can sit there and feel lonely and have that thought in our mind going round and round in circles. But if you're not talking to somebody else or connecting with people or making that contact, you're going to come out with the same answers every single time, every single day of the week, every single month. It's going to be exactly the same answers. So many people out there thinking, yeah, I'm dealing with it. I'm dealing with it. What are you doing? Because 6 months have gone by and you've got the same answers in your head. You've done nothing at all. You're just thinking of the same answers. You haven't reached out. You haven't gone to a retreat. You haven't picked up a book. You haven't done anything different. But I think it's actually acknowledging the successes you've had. And that could be as simple as getting out of bed and putting your shoes on the right way around.
Yes.
Which people forget that sometimes it's really hard for people. I know clients I've worked with, I've had to go and open up their envelopes for them because they were too scared to open up their own letters. And it's acknowledging all these little things that you're doing that are helping you go to the next level, next phase of, even cooking yourself a meal, for example. Some people sit there didn't even do that. I know I didn't. There were times where I wouldn't eat for a couple of days. But it's acknowledging that and look at the things that you have done, and then you can look at the bigger items you've done as well, that you've achieved. And they end up being those small milestones, end up being massive results as well.
Yeah. Now, thank you for that. And one of the things you shared, which in one of the videos I've seen on loneliness, is that part of when we're with other people, if there is a change in behavior, or if medicines aren't being taken, or if there's some sort of neglect happening, or meals not being eaten, they can sometimes be picked up when we're with other people and seen and then addressed. But if we're on our own, there's no one there to notice that or pick that up or to help intervene. So that's, yeah.
It's weird because even I remember the image. It was a roughly late afternoon. Sun was out and my neighbor's mother said, actually asked the question, is he okay? Because I lost so much weight. And even, the grandmother basically noticed how I looked. And just that question alone the next day kind of prompted up other discussions as well. So it's important just to actually point that out. If you can't do it yourself, reach out to somebody else that can actually ask that question, or bring it up in a conversation. If they carry on talking about it, great, you're there supporting them. Sometimes they don't even want someone to talk to. They just say, oh, do you fancy going for a walk? And that's all they want.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you, Manish. I see Bindi's raised her hand. Bindi, would you like to add to the conversation?
Hi, everyone. That was It was great to hear from everyone, different perspective. I agree with everything that said, especially what Manish said. If you are a parent, you have to get both the parents involved. From a young age, you have to listen. The child can be from 2 years who doesn't understand anything, but you have to get to their level to talk to them. Communication is the key. Sometimes we don't talk. We are scared of talking. You should never be scared of talking. No matter how ashamed it feels or how someone will look down on you, whatever, those thoughts are the ones that really put people back. So for me, I just go around and I just talk to everyone. Even if I have a silly question, there's never, ever a silly question. All you do is just ask. And from my experience, it has always been a success. From whatever I do, whenever I've asked, one person says no, the next person will say yes. So it's always a can-do attitude that gets you going. So that's my take on that.
Great, thank you for that. Thank you, Bindi. I don't see any other hands up wanting to share anything or ask anything. So what I'm going to suggest is if Manish, Aarti or Reshna, if you wanted to share anything else, now is a good opportunity to share. If as closing remarks, and we can close the Zoom part of it, and those who maybe are feeling a bit shyer on this and want to join on the wonder for 15-20 minutes can have a conversation there.
I think my closing comments are just when you find the people that you find these connections with, keep them close, they can help you to get through so much. And it's really nice being in a position where if I've got a question in my head or I'm not sure about something, even if it's a virtual reach out to someone, I've got people that I can talk to, and in the parenting space, I think it's huge, especially as you kind of deal with the trials and tribulations of, like a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old not wanting to do certain things. So I think, and it also makes you feel a lot less alone in that space. You're not the only one going through this, because in the intensity of emotions, I think sometimes that can make the loneliness feel far more intense. So thank you for creating this space, and for the other spaces that are now available for people to be able to make those connections rather than just contacts.
I'd like to add how you perceive the thing as well. If you are, let's say, lonely, if something doesn't work out, you'll blame yourself. But if you're not lonely, then you'll find a way to overcome that. So that's the key to things, that the differences that you can, it's up to you how you perceive it. And I feel that smile to everyone around you, even if it's to the person who's working in the park, or the bus driver, or the person who you get your regular groceries from. Smile, talk to them. I think that is the one way of actually, making that connection with them, even though they're strangers, but somehow it's just like one day if you don't see them, it might be like you did miss them. It happens like that. And I would say that just open up and share about yourself. I think that's the most important thing, just as Aarti had said. And there's a quote that came to my mind. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first small step.
Yeah, that's a great quote. I think it's attributed to Martin Luther King Jr. That one, that's definitely a fantastic one. Thank you for that.
I guess there's another thing I just want to add as well, is like, if obviously everyone can see us on the screen. There's 4 of us here, and you're probably seeing us from various experiences we've all had in our lives. And I'm going to say average 30, 40 years, whatever it is, or young adults even. And if you saw us in a playground when we're toddlers, we're probably sitting there playing games or running around with each other. And if we were doing it as toddlers, there's nothing stopping you doing that now, even as an adult, because you're the same person. And we tend to forget that. We're so programmed if, oh no, we can't go and speak to that person. We can't do this. We can't do that. And I think, you know, I guess there's proof here that there's 4 of us here who have created various environments, but we've connected with people as if we were little kids again. And that was one of the things that got me through a lot of the stuff I went through in 2009, 10 and 11, even when my parents passed away, was living as I was when I was a teenager. I was able to connect with people, just random people, and not losing their skill sets. Everyone's got those skill sets in them. Yeah, and don't forget that you're able to do that now as well.
Terrific, thank you. Be childlike again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. No, great, thank you. So I'm going to take this opportunity to thank our speakers, Manish, Aarti and Reshna again. Really grateful for you to take part in this. I'm going to thank all the people who've, the organizations and individuals who've been involved in sharing about, all the events this week. So Oshwal Connect, Mind in Enfield and Barnet, Young Jains, Manish Gohel Consulting, as well as Asian Parents Group and the other groups, Balance Consultancy, OM Consultancy, and Authentic Responses. So tomorrow, as I mentioned, we've got someone from Mind in Enfield and Barnet coming to share about mental health and loneliness, and they'll share I have more of an angle on various tips and things on regarding that, as well as Hansa from OM sharing about how to overcome loneliness, how to cope with it. So some of the messages will be similar to today, but there'll be other ones. And the messages which are similar are the ones you want to be taken away, because you're going to be hearing the same stuff when you go to different things, but the ones which you keep hearing are the things that you want to latch onto. So that is there. Wednesday, we've got Sonal who will be sharing about stress and anxiety in the workplace. So it's a focus on stress and anxiety and the workplace aspect. And Thursday is on suicide prevention. And this is an interesting one where it's a lower number of people signed up at the moment, but it's the one where I thought there would be the most, because I thought, or in my head, I think this is one of the most important aspects, where if we're aware of suicide prevention and how we can help others, then it's a massive thing. So you're welcome to attend one of those or all of those. And if you are joining us tomorrow or the day after, bring a friend. So bring someone along, encourage them to join us. That'd be great. And I am going to just share a couple of last things on this screen before. So there is a self-care practices infographic that's been added to the blog article that is on the Happy Life Habits website. So it's got various things in there which we've talked about today, as well as in the past, and things that you can do to help your self-care, but all of them are related to mental health, emotional health, spiritual, physical health, and connecting with others. There is this Wonder link, which I'm going to share in here. It's 10-15 minutes is all we'll have in that space, but we can carry on longer, but I'll be there for 10-15 minutes and some of the speakers may join. This is an opportunity for you to connect, discuss some of these things that we've talked about, and just have a chit chat with others, like over a coffee after the event. The space is there, it's not recorded, it's free flow, and you can move around in that space if you wish. And Linktree/Happy Life, it's a linktr.ee/Happy Life Habits. If you go to that, that's where the Wonder link is, as well as on the email you would have got earlier. And I'm going to paste it here. So you will, if you make a copy of this link, it's on the email you've got, it's on there. The blog article is also available with the various resources and contact links of all these orgs that were being part of this from that Linktree aspect. If you are able to join us for 10-15 minutes to share, great. If not, no worries, but please do join us for the rest of this week and invite others to do so. Would love to serve you in that manner. So I am